Welcome to the ZoomTown Experiment, where anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But for today's video, it is mostly great news. Now, I will say I filmed this whole story just a little bit ago and forgot to actually turn on the mic and the camera. So hopefully the rest of this video will go a lot more smoothly. Up above here, I've got another video running of a test that I had ran. And that was another wonderfully encouraging test that's helping me to move forward with this project. But based on the findings I presented in the previous few videos, I started a process of simplification. If you remember, in the last few videos, I explained that I kept adding sensors and features and logic and this and that, making the process so much more complex, but never solved the core problem of positional errors. We added a lot to this system. And as it turns out, and I will explain in upcoming videos, I made some very dumb mistakes and I'm not afraid to admit it. But that's the subject of another story in a couple of weeks. But this simplification has required a lot of code rewriting, testing, and refining. So you try something, test it, observe it, make changes. But all through that process was very promising. The feedback was good, more good than more bad, right? And the video playing up here is showing a test doing 25 passes of a trip where the Zoomie visits 7 of his neighbors, pulling into their driveway and backing out and going on to the next one. And this is the most extensive test I have run so far in this whole project. And it's doing a lot of work when it's doing that. This test has performed 200 parking movers pulling into a driveway, 200 unparking maneuvers backing out of a driveway, 50 sweep turns, which are those large radius turns on the right hand. Well, in the video you're probably watching up there, it's now at the top of the screen instead of at the right edge. We've got 250 pivot maneuvers or pivot turns, and that's been a real trouble spot all along in this process. 50 pull-up maneuvers where I get into a location where there really isn't a road, but I have to pull up. And then 275 cruise maneuvers. 0 failures, which is monumental. I am so thrilled with that. I would be doing a dance if I could dance. I'm so thrilled about it. However, I always throw shade on my projects like this. I did observe one issue in particular that needs addressing, but I need to observe it more. The reason, or what I'm seeing, when the Zoomie backs out of a driveway, it has to make a pivot turn in reverse to line up for the road, either to go forward. And what I'm seeing is a very jerky movement, so jerky that the wheel that's driving actually is causing the front end, or that corner of the Zoomie, front corner of the Zoomie, to lift up. And if it stays up too long, the motor spins faster, causing the Zoomie to believe it has traveled the right distance, but it's going nowhere because the wheel is spinning in the air. Now, that never happened in this particular test. I have seen it in other tests before this, and I cannot figure it out. But I tried a few things. It behaved for this whole test, but I still witnessed the early signs of that problem revealing itself. So that's on my radar. Let's take a look at a top-level view of the changes that have been made to this thing. And there will be, I believe, the next video coming up. I'm going to go into detail about how the logic has changed to perform a lot of these maneuvers and what features I've added to those routines to make them perform better and more accurately. So the details will be coming up, but that'll be the next video. For pivot turn, sweep turn, cruise, park, unpark, and the pull-up maneuver have all been extensively modified. Probably 10% of the code for each of those maneuvers was left as is, and the rest has been changed and rechanged many times in the past few weeks. This eliminated 95% of the marker tapes that used to be on the ZoomTown road surfaces. If you remember, thinking back, on the road surfaces, we saw what looked like railroad ties all along the surface, every inch apart, 25 millimeters. As memory serves me, that was 847 pieces of tape that took me, I think, 2 to 3 days to apply to the ZoomTown roads. They're not needed anymore. Kind of a sad thing, all the work that went into that. But along with those markers being gone, the start of a road segment markers are gone, as are the magnets, which worked in pair or in conjunction with the Hall effect sensors. They are gone. They're not needed from all of this simplification. The TCR T5000 photoreflective sensors are still being utilized at the front and the rear, but they actually are doing more work for me to help me increase accuracy in the maneuvers and in the stopping points. So that was a nice reevaluation of using that sensor for more than my original plan. Now, another one that my mind's pretty well made up, but I'm just kind of holding on for hope. At this time, I also believe I will be removing the maneuvers for checking the address and reparking. And that would eliminate the tiny code reader and all the related hardware and logic. Now, of course, I already paid for it, so it won't reduce cost, but it will reduce one of the elements that's been causing the problem, and I never knew about it. In the particular case where I'm just checking it by command from the scheduler at the startup of the whole experiment system, all 16 Zoomies and the scheduler all working at the same time. In the case of that, at the startup, I would have the Zoomie tell it to check the address. It would back up, look for the QR code, report it, and then repark itself. Even that I'm eliminating out of the system. I can easily take all 16 Zoomies, designate them to one specific driveway each, and then at startup, get them all in that proper driveway. I will take on that manual responsibility instead of letting the scheduler do it. And overall, that just buys me much more simplicity. Instead of using incremental coordinates and movements, I'm working from absolute coordinates and movements. And of course, that's all very much in the math and the programming, nothing to do with sensors. The encoders are now very much the primary positional feedback. The Zoomie has 2 of them, one for each wheel. That's one of them, and over here is the other one. They're very small. They have Hall effect sensors in them, so there's magnets and all that. 7 pulses per rev times 150 to 1 gear ratio. You get a very high resolution out of them, especially if you give the Pico enough time to actually handle the interrupts to check them. Hinting at what's coming up here. The markers are used at the endpoints of moves, and that gives me the ability to say, go to this location, and if you go too far, I can tell that. If you don't get far enough, I can tell that. And then if you get to the right point and you're in a reasonable distance from it, all is great, keep moving. So markers are still very important, but very few of them are needed. And then finally, the TCR T5000s at both the front and the rear of the Zoomie, these being analog, these being digital, those are now used to detect stop points in forward and reverse, as well as to detect center line of road. So big changes all across. The downside to a lot of this massive changing that I've done, a lot of the scheduler software is going to have to be rewritten, and that's going to be a huge project. But first I got to get the Zoomie stable to run reliably right now. As mentioned, all of those changes resulted in the best test runs I have yet with this whole experiment. 25 passes is more than double any amount of test runs I have done up to this point. Further to that, solutions to problems that have been encountered, the problems that have been encountered, the solutions have been far more logical and far less mysterious, which is a great indication everything is working as it should be. Really happy with that. I love the idea of a problem comes up, you apply good logic and reasoning, taking your time and patience to do that, and then coming up with a solution, implementing the solution, testing it, it works, undoing the solution, testing it, it fails. Now you know you've hit it, or with a very high probability. And I've been hitting a lot of those lately, so that really is a great feeling. Now the next thing is, during a lot of this change process, and this is actually going back about 3 weeks, I think, I knew we were heading in the right direction. So I broke open the checkbook, wrote a check for about $225 and bought 32 pairs of, 16 pairs of the motors. These are the motors that we're using, and I've got confidence we're going to make this baby work and work well. So I got all excited as soon as they arrived in the mail, and I was ripping through the packages like a bear trying to break into a car to get a bag of Cheetos. It was fun, got them all undone, they all inspected, they look good. I haven't done electrical inspections on them yet, and often I found out too that I got to make sure that the gap between the magnet and the Hall effect sensors are in fact not bent in and so forth. But I'll go through all of that, and I will be building another Zoomie, probably a pair of them, to continue with testing with the new motors. So I'm really happy. As you may have told, my energy level's a little higher in this video as well. So it's been a lot of fun. I still got a lot more testing to do with all these maneuvers, and then I've got to go through and really do a lot of work in the scheduler software, which will ultimately run this whole system. Furthermore, I got a bit of mechanical redesign now that I got to go through on the Zoomie chassis and the body and all of that, so I got to get that done and start printing all those components. And I really won't print them all until I get a much higher level of confidence that they're going to work, because this will be the third time I have completely changed the body and most of the components, meaning I've thrown away a whole lot of plastic and printing time. So just being a little more cautionary. Okay, to wrap this one up, in the next video I'm going to go through and explain in more detail how each maneuver is handled via code and demonstration in movement, and just a verbal description of how I want it to behave and what it is doing. And I'll kind of emphasize a little bit of the logic as opposed to the sensors, because we've already covered all of that. So far, the KISS principle is proving yet again to be the smart path. You'll see that in the next video, and the video after that, which is already partially filmed, even further confirms that we're moving in the right direction and things are looking up in ZoomTown. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.